This is Lesson 5 of the Hermetic Qabalah course. When working the paths of the Hermetic Tree of Life, one of the ways that we can get insight into each of the paths is by working with the tarot trump that's associated with each path. There are several systems of assigning tarot trumps to different paths on the Tree of Life, and each have their merits. Those systems are seemingly contradictory, so it's a good idea to find a system you like and stick with it. Otherwise, you may run into problems accessing the energy and the wisdom of each path if you're using systems that are at odds with each other. The way this system works is the tarot cards are placed in order from top to bottom, starting on path 11 all the way down to path 32. And when we are climbing the Tree of Life, we go backwards up the Tree of Life, starting at path 32. And so our last tarot trump on path 32 is the World card. And so that means that that's the card we work with first. And we work our way up the tree by going backwards through the trump cards. And that's what we're going to do today. And I'm just going to give you a few little insights, but the bulk of the work is going to come from you working with these paths. All right, I'm going to just use this little crystal to help keep track of where we are. We are starting on path 32, the World card. It's important to recognize that we start out with the path that is connecting the Earth to the Moon. And the Moon is our foray into the astral plane. This is called Yesod. This is called Malkuth. So when we are climbing that path from Malkuth to Yesod, what we are doing is working with the astral doubles of everything that's going on in our lives. In order to start up that path and start on our trek up the Tree of Life, this World card has a lot of information for us. For one thing, these four figures at the corners are the symbols of the four fixed signs of the zodiac. So the fixed sign of each element is associated with the angelic protection of that element. For instance, Aquarius here, that's depicted by this angel, is the fixed sign of air. In our system, that is the archangel Ariel. This here is the eagle, and that's the fixed sign of water, or Scorpio. In our system, that is the archangel Samael. Here is the lion, and that's the fixed sign of fire, and in our system, that is Michael. Here is the bull, and that's the fixed sign of earth, Taurus, and in our system, that is the archangel Anael. So these archangels, these cherubic forces, are present, and we invoke them as we climb the tree so that we are feeling safe and protected. This figure in the center is frequently known as Adam Kadmon, or the perfect human. It's an androgynous character because that's what the soul is. If you remember in Genesis, the character that called himself Yahweh Elohim extracted the female from this Adam Kadmon, thus making two genders, whereas before they were unified. So that's our first foray up this path. Now, there's so much more to deal with on the path other than the tarot card, but this gives you an idea of where we're coming from. We're starting out protected. We're starting out understanding that we already are perfect, and in ascending the Tree of Life, what we're doing is we are realizing the perfection that we were created as. It's not that we were created imperfect, and by climbing the tree, we are achieving perfection. We are recognizing that we were already created perfect, and that we are letting go of everything that we've made up that's standing in the way of us realizing that perfection that already exists. Path 31, the Judgment card. Path 31 is connecting Malkuth, which is the earth, with Mercury. This is called Hod. And as we climb this path, we are finding purification again with the earth plane. So we started out purifying with the earth by climbing up the path from earth to moon. The archangel which rules the moon and Yesod is called Gabriel. Now we are coming from a different perspective of purifying our relationship with the earth by climbing up to Hod, or Mercury. Mercury is the communicator, and it's the messenger of the gods, communicating to us to awaken. And so this is a call to awakening from the slumber of the earth, the egoic mind, the demiurge. We are all sort of sleeping and just assuming that everything that we see with our physical eyes is the way they are. We are just assuming that things are the way they are based on how we've been taught, and never questioning reality. And when we are traversing this path, we're being asked to wake up and to question everything and to recognize that we're not really who we think we are. And no longer are we allowing ourselves to be part of the walking dead. Instead, we are awakening from our slumber and being aroused, lifting ourselves up and hearing the communications from this Archangel Raphael. Path 30, the Sun card. And it is connecting Hod, or Mercury, with the moon. And so we have communication with our deep mind, our unconscious mind, and with the astral plane. And that is represented by the Sun card. It's interesting that the Sun card doesn't have any connection with this sun sphere. These two figures here that are in front of this fence are celebrating the awakening that just occurred with the Judgment card. And they are allowing themselves to revel in the new visions, the new truths that they are now privy to, because they are able to communicate between the sphere of Mercury and the sphere of the moon, the sphere of the intellect and the sphere of the deep mind and the astral. This is a jubilant experience in this card. As we open up the communication with our deep mind, a lot of the illusions and so-called problems that we took for granted are now quite malleable and aren't as set in stone as we thought they were, and that instead we are awakening to the power of our mind over matter. Instead of being ensconced with the earth at this particular path, we are working directly with the astral realm and using our mind to direct that astral realm. Path 29, the Moon card. Purifying the earth again, but this time with the sphere of Venus, Netzach. As we are purifying the earth plane with Venus, or with Netzach, we have to recognize Netzach means victory, but it means victory based on patience. It means victory based on durability, outlasting our problems. The reason why we're victorious on this plane is because we don't give up. When we are purifying the earth through Venus, we are purifying ourselves of our illusory sensuality. We can see how the crawfish is trying to come out of this pool of the deep mind and onto the dry land of physical experience. This physical experience is being guarded by these two hounds. Some believe it's a dog and a wolf, but whatever, there are definitely two hounds that are guarding this, and they are baying at the moon, their mistress. This is the gatekeeper in our minds that allows some things in our deep mind to manifest and other things not to manifest. It's important for us to, in regards to our sensual ideals, and that's not only sexual, that means the sensual world itself, using our senses. Those senses are illusory. Not to get caught up in the sense world. The sense world brings us symbols, and it's up to us to find the wisdom to interpret those symbols properly. And that will be coming, especially when we cross this path that combines Mercury and Venus. Path 28, the Star card. And that's combining the moon and Venus. That is a definite Shekinah force happening there. The star card. The star is also a symbol of the Shekinah. So the Shekinah here and here. If anybody that recognizes in angel magic, Shekinah is both Gabriel and Anael, who rules this sphere. And so when we are working with this path, we are working directly with the Shekinah. She's pouring water from jugs, one on dry land and one into a body of water. She's purifying our experiences both on the astral and on the physical. What's going on in the astral is going to affect what's manifesting here. So it's very important for us to spend some time on this path in asking for that Shekinah force to reinterpret for us the things we are believing with our sense mind, and recognizing that once those things are purified, the astral double that we create will then make better forms for us as those things manifest. Definitely a path of working with Shekinah. And Shekinah shows up all over the tree, but this is very specific to this particular path. Path 27, the Tower card. Connecting our sensual experience and our intellectual experience. Mercury, Raphael, and Anael, which is Venus. This kind of purification can seem somewhat violent at times because the intellect and the sensual world don't always see eye to eye. And it's important that the misperceptions that are occurring through either of these spheres be reconciled. And that's what's going on with this Tower card. And this Tower card is sometimes called the House of God. And it's hearkening back to the Tower of Babel myth. All of the things that we've built up through our own conceit, trying to build our own tower to heaven rather than allowing the infrastructure that the universe has already given us to be our method and our vehicle. We are trying to do things our own way. And after a while, those things become such a hindrance that they must be destroyed. And this is what we are asking for on this path, is that all of those mental and sensual structures that we built up for ourselves over our lives be destroyed. And that's a very important purification, because then we start to get this perfect communication between intellect and sensuality. And that also is going to help quite a lot with what is going on the astral plane, and thus what is being manifest in our lives. Path 26, the Devil card, connecting Hod with the sun, or Tifereth. This is our first entrance into the solar light. We have the intellect of Hod linking up with the pure vibrance of the sun. And the card that we work with in this is the Devil card. Before we can get into the solar light, we have to allow ourselves to remove from our consciousness, from our intellect, the idea that we know what it looks like, that we know what it's going to be, that we know the way things should be. And you can see how this is so beautifully depicted on this card, because this demon here, which was, in my understanding of this card, conjured by these two figures here. The demon looks so bored, doesn't really want to be there, but it's doing its job. These two conjured this demon and attached themselves to the demon. And when they attached themselves to the demon, they started to think that the demon was bigger than they are. They forgot that they conjured it. Being attached to this demon is a symbol of not being open to the ideas of the infinite and to the divine, and believing that what they have in their own intellect is true and is the highest thought and knows what it's doing. I know what things should look like. I know the way that this should work out. And if it doesn't work out like this, it's not working properly. And it's saying you can't really get into the enlightenment of Tifereth with that kind of mindset. So you must allow yourself to detach from this demon of your own making, from your own intellect, and instead to open your mind to the possibilities that are far beyond anything that your personal intellect could ever conjure up on its own. Path 25, the Temperance card. Yesod with Tifereth. This is our second experience with this sun sphere. It's ruled by Michael, by the way. So we've got Gabriel and Michael. This is what they call the middle pillar here, this one that goes straight up. Path 32 is the first path on the middle pillar. This is the second path on the middle pillar. And this is linking our astral experience and our unconscious mind with the universal sun, which is our superconscious mind, the divine design of our lives. When the divine design of our lives informs the deep mind, then those things on the astral manifest. That's why it's so helpful and important to align ourselves with that divine design. That way, it's not up to us to conjure these things. The intellect is merely a tool of perception. And if we can perceive the truth rather than conjuring illusion, then we have good and sound manifestations in our lives. And this is represented by this Temperance card, because this angel here is mixing up a potion, mixing up something. It's finding that perfect balance, and it knows the balance better than we do. And if we allow for that balance to be achieved for us, then we are no longer getting off of that middle pillar and going off back into this where we think we know what to do, and instead allowing it to be done for us. And then we can drink symbolically of that potion to find that perfect manifestation in our lives. Path 24, the Death card. To link Venus with the sun. And so we've got sensuality and sense understanding with the sun, which is that divine design. And this causes death. And that's exactly what we want. We want everything that is out of harmony with the relationship between these two spheres to die. And it must die. And that's what this is. This is a killing field here. There is nothing that is saved. This creature, this Grim Reaper, is going out and annihilating each and every illusion. Everything about our sensual mind that is not in alignment with the divine design, we are asking for it to be completely clear-cut for us. And this can be challenging for people that are very addicted to their sense mind, very challenging during this period to cross this path because they don't want to see those things die. And so if you're not ready for it, you're not ready for it. And you have to hang out on here for a while until you are ready for it, because you can't go any farther until you are able to understand that the sensual world is only helpful if it is a manifestation of the divine design. If you're stuck in the sensual world, whatever that is, it doesn't matter. It's not necessarily a sexual, sensual world. It's whatever sensual experiences that you think are more important than your spiritual understanding. Those things need to be severed. That's not to say that you never have sensual experiences anymore, but those just become simple preferences rather than what they are before this purification, which are types of addictions. And that's not necessarily substance abuse addictions. When I say addiction, I mean addiction to any part of the sense world. Path 23, the Hanged Man card. To connect Hod or Mercury with our very first experience of Mars. You see how Mars is higher on the tree. It's on a higher vibration than Mercury. This is the feminine side of the tree. This is the receptive side of the tree, which is interesting because Mars being feminine, sometimes people have a hard time with that, but we'll talk about that at another time. I'm going to just get through these paths on the tarot today. Finding that balance and that connection between Mercury, which is the intellect, and severity, which is the warrior. We have to not allow ourselves to be victimized by the world anymore. And that can be very challenging for us to recognize when we're being victimized and to not be victimized anymore, and to understand that victimization in this particular sense, the work we're doing on the paths, is a choice that we have to undo or have undone for us. Now, I always like to state that from the angel's point of view, this is us having upside down perception, misperceiving things. When we come into this path, when we first start, oh, my life is so hard. Life on earth is just so hard for people because it's as if we have no power. We are hanging by a foot, our arms are bound behind us, and we have nothing to do other than suffer. All life is suffering, is the understanding there. When the angels get into the conversation, they say, you're misperceiving the world. And of course, the world you live in is suffering because you are living in a world that doesn't exist. You're living in a world of misperceptions. And now as you are climbing the tree, what you get to do is see things differently. And that's when the angels require you to see things right side up. Once you see things right side up, you realize that you're not victimized by this world and that it's up to you to take a stand. It's up to you to put your foot down. It's up to you to unbind your hands and to stand on your own 2 feet. And this can be a challenge for us at this particular juncture because a lot of us don't want to own our true power. We say we do, but we don't. But we are powerful. And we do have the ability to say no. And we do have the ability to put our foot down. And we do have the ability to stand up not only to things that appear to be outside of us, but stand up to ourselves and our own egos and allow ourselves to be shown a different view of the world than what we've become accustomed to viewing it as. Path 22, the Strength card. If you're on the new tarot, like Rider-Waite-Smith and all of its clones, this would be the path of justice. But we do everything the old-fashioned way here. So you're more than welcome to transpose justice and strength if you want to, but just make sure that you're consistent with that. But we don't do that. This is actually where strength exists. And it makes to me a lot more sense, because what this is doing is it's linking this sphere of severity with the sphere of beauty. So we've got Samael and Michael working together, the Sun and Mars working together, and that does bring us strength. That does bring us a great amount of strength. Now, it's also interesting because Leo is one of the rulers of this card, and that makes a lot of sense too, that Leo would be part of this equation here. Now, what this strength card is showing us is the next step after the Hanged Man, when we put our foot down and start perceiving things differently, is that then it's up to us to start to tame ourselves, to be strong with ourselves, strong yet gentle. Now, a lion tamer is very strong, but also very gentle, never abusive to the lion, because the whole idea of taming a wild beast is you want to make it your friend. It's not about abusing the beast. It's about making it your friend. It's a matter of finding that balance with yourself where you're willing to look deep within yourself at your character defects, at your character flaws, and being honest about them, yet recognizing that the only reason that they came up is because they were trying to do something good for you and they didn't know how. So you don't beat them up. You don't beat up those character defects. You love them, but you are firm with them. You say, I understand that you are trying to do something good for me, but that's not how we're doing things anymore. And we're not going to be like that anymore, whatever those particular patterns are that you find. And you give them new ways of functioning. You say, we need to find a way for you to contribute like you're trying to contribute in a new way. And this is the whole idea of taming that wild beast, or those wild beasts that are within us, and turning those wild beasts into companions and possibly even beasts of burden, meaning that they work for us rather than against us. Path 21, the Wheel card. Our next path is our first foray into Jupiter, or Hesed, ruled by the archangel Sakiel. So we've got Anael and Sakiel, Venus and Jupiter. And the card we use for that is the Wheel of Fortune. Netzach has been completely purified by now. The highest expression of Venus is going on for us. So we don't have those sensual problems that we were encountering before, where we were misunderstanding our senses and addicted to unhealthy expressions of those senses. Now we're allowing those senses to be used for their highest purpose, and that is to find our fortune, to find our expansion, and the experience of what is known as mercy. Mercy represents abundance and justice. As this wheel turns, it's important not to get locked into the volatility of the wheel, but to allow it to turn in order for us to expand our good, to make sure that our consciousness is always on this top platform, rather than where these poor little creatures are trying to hang on for dear life as the wheel turns. And as you lose your addictions to the sense world, you lose your need to hang on to things, and you can just sit on the top of this being nice and centered and allow yourself to receive the benefits of all of that expansion that Jupiter has for you. Path 20, the Hermit card. Taking us between Tifereth and Hesed, Sun and Jupiter, Michael and Sakiel. The name of that card is the Hermit. The Hermit is our guiding light. One of the beautiful things about this path is the relationship between the solar light and Jupiter is the guidance of our inner guide. We have an inner guide that knows exactly what needs to be done. at every moment of time and point of space. And now that we have purified ourselves enough of this egoic mind between the intellect and the sense world, the mortal mind, we have a relationship with an intelligence that is higher and greater than anything our personal intellect has ever experienced before. And therefore, when we are working with that inner guide at all times, we no longer have to wonder and worry about choices that we make in the world, because we have been initiated onto that level where we have at our fingertips at all times 100% access to wisdom. And I always say that this lantern can be shined on anything that we have misunderstandings about. Now, of course, you don't have to wait until you go through these paths to utilize the gifts of these things. They're all available to all of us. But when you do climb the tree in a very systematic way, these things become much more ingrained in your psyche so that they are tools that are always accessible to you. And this one is your access to infinite intelligence. Path 19, the Justice card. Mercy and severity. This path is highlighted more than any other path in the Psalms. It's constantly being talked about in the Psalms. They don't call it the path between these two Sephiroth, but they're always talking about mercy and strength, mercy and strength. And so when those things are invoked together in the Psalm, they're talking about this path, or they can be. We can see it as that. And this is represented by justice. And it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it, that this balance between severity and mercy is everything for us. So even though we're not on a middle pillar here, but it has something similar to a middle pillar path because we are balancing these two spheres. And so the idea being that no matter what's going on or has gone on, you have the balance between strength, which is knowing your power, and mercy, which is allowing things to happen for you. What we call that in the tradition that I walk is divine restitution. No matter what's gone on in your life, on this path, you get to call upon the justice of it. This is the judge and this is the prosecutor. And together, they find justice for you. And when the justice is found for you, you get the restitution. You get the gifts of that. Anything that's happened to you in your life is allowed that restitution. Now, this also goes the other way. Anywhere that you've been unfair, you get the restitution with that as well, in that you are no longer saddled with the so-called karmic debt of it. It's a path ultimately of forgiveness. Path 18, the Chariot card. The severity of Mars with the understanding of Saturn. So this is severity and understanding. Geburah and Bina. And that is the Chariot. The Chariot is a vehicle of war, which makes a lot of sense with this card here, but it's also a royal chariot under the auspices of the Queen here. So what's happening is we have our very first abyss path. This first abyss path is a chariot because you don't jump the abyss. At least not the way I practice the Qabbalah. A lot of people say this is where you have to be so skilled to jump the abyss, or you might have some treachery happen. We don't look at it that way. The abyss is not for us to jump. The abyss is for us to be carried. That's not our responsibility. We've done our job up to this point, and by the time we get here, we start to be carried. And that's why we're being carried in a chariot. We're being carried in a grand chariot from severity into understanding. And this is something that we've allowed to happen for us, but it's not something that we can control. That's why we spent so much time giving up the need to control everything in our lives, because you don't want to take the reins in this point. This is where you do not want to try to get that control back. You don't want to walk this path before you're ready, because the tendency that we have as egoic beings is to say, I know what to do. I'll do it. Give it to me. This is a path where you need to allow that to be taken care of for you. It takes a lot of trust and so-called surrender to allow that charioteer to do its job, and all you have to do is ride. Riding to understanding, to pure understanding. Any illusions that are still lingering are now being completely annihilated, completely evaporated and dissolved. as you find this understanding. This is the Divine Mother that you are coming into contact with directly. Path 17, the Lover's card. And this is connecting the Sun also with Bina, the mother. Tifereth with Bina. This is the mother and her divine child. This is you. This is you at your best. You are one. When you are the Sun, you are at your most exalted. You are you as the divine design. And so once you are who you are as the divine design, then you are capable of being carried on this path to the mother. The Lover's card. This lover's picture here is so important. What's in charge here is the angel, not these people. And this is speaking to the idea that what you're finally getting rid of is this idea that you have to figure things out, that there's still more for you to discuss about anything. And once you realize, I don't know, then you have shed enough of that ego to be carried across that abyss on this level. Path 16, the Pope card. The Pope has to do with authority. Here was the Divine Mother, here's the Divine Father. And this is all about you recognizing that the root word of authority is author. You did not author yourself. So this Divine Father is the authority because it is the representative of the author. This represents the divine seed, which is then put into the womb. You didn't create your own seed. You are the result of a seed. And so once you understand that, and you no longer need to be the authority in your life, you can allow the author of you to be the authority, you are easily carried up that path. This is a challenging path for a lot of people because there's a lot of confusion about what authority is. And the only real authority is that which creates you. And that which creates you is the author of who you are. The only thing that you've authored regarding yourself is stuff that you're getting rid of now. And that's your ego mind. And it can be very insulting to what's left of the ego to think, I have no authority. I didn't author myself. That's correct. You have no authority and you didn't author yourself, but that's your gift. So you were given everything. And when you say, no, I want it my way, you're saying, well, then I don't want those gifts. So understanding that you are the child that is receiving all the gifts from this divine authority, then you recognize that I don't want to be the authority. The idea that I wanted to be the author of myself is misguided. I don't want that. I want to be the recipient of all the gifts. I want to be the divine child. That's who I am. I want to be that. Path 15, the Emperor card. Going from Tifereth, the superconscious mind, all the way to the Father. This is Father and Child. Father and Child is the Emperor. The Pope is talking about who the authority is in regards to who created you. This is talking about who you are as the Emperor. One of the gifts you were given is the ability to lead your life as a royal child. You're a part of a royal family. And this is understanding your royalty. When you gave up all authority here, then you received all authority. You gave up all of your need to be the author, and then now you get to author your own life. But you're doing it under the care and direction of a divine power rather than something that you're coming up with all by yourself. And then you as the emperor of your life have all power. But that power, you understand, is something that's coming through you, but not from you. No longer do you have the stress of thinking that you have to be the authority. Instead, you are the child, and part of your gift is being the authority, which is now just a job that you have. And it's a wonderful job. It's a fabulous job. And then you can be the best leader that you possibly can be in your own life because you are being guided and directed, and you understand who you are. You are the recipient of power, and therefore that power is there for you to utilize. But you didn't come up with the power yourself. You didn't create the power. You didn't author yourself. But as a royal child, you get to be the emperor. It's your role. Path 14, the Empress card. 14th path connecting father and mother. This is God and Goddess. The Empress card. The god and the goddess is depicted by the Empress card. She's the feminine force that receives everything. She's magnetic to her good. And that's exactly what's happening between these two here. When you are going from mother to father on this path, what you're doing is you are becoming magnetic. You are not only the child, like you found out here from the father, but you're the divine child of these two parents. When you see yourself from the receptive or feminine perspective, what that means is that you don't have to do anything. That's the first time that we realize you don't have to do anything. You're perfect just the way you are. All you have to do is sit in your throne and allow it to come to you. Everything's been set up perfectly for you. Now that you understand things differently, you realize you need to do absolutely nothing. It's your doing that is the problem. And no longer are you going to do anything. You simply have to receive. You simply have to poise yourself and to be the Empress, to be that feminine receptacle of all of this wonderful love that you have between the father and mother here. Path 13, the High Priestess card. Then we have 13, which is the final middle pillar path, connecting the sun with the crown. This is the divine parent before it's gendered. There's a straight shot here from the child to the infinite creator. The card for that is the High Priestess, because this is a secret path. When you are on this path, you'll never understand it. It's beyond understanding. It's beyond comprehension. The beauty is that what's behind the veil, the mysteries that are behind the veil, are never ultimately attainable by any sense of intellect. And this is us being content with the mystery, being content with the mystery of who we are, why we're here, and understanding that it's all perfect and that we don't need to make sense of it, because our sense-making apparatus is very low level when compared to where we are here at Kether the Crown. The occult mysteries are revealed to us on this path because we are at a point where we are content with the mystery in and of itself. The mysteries are revealed as being what they are, mysteries, and we no longer need to understand them, to uncover them. We are content with what they are, and that is unknowable. They're always occult. They are always hidden. Path 12, the Magician card. Going from the Divine Mother straight up to the crown. Again, these are things that are happening for us. Anything above these spheres here is happening for us. We're not climbing, we're being lifted. But this is where we are going to be finally rid of the last vestiges of our ego mind. And this can be a challenging test for many people because no longer do we get to use anything. No longer do our wands work. No longer do our tools work. No longer do we have any sense of being able to fool anybody or fool ourselves. You can't talk yourself into enlightenment. You can't talk God into doing anything for you. So all of our old tricks, all of our old skills, this can be challenging for us because we don't want to put our old toys away. We don't want to put those old tools away. We still have that little bit of ego left, enough ego to keep us separate. It's trying to convince us at this point, and you're just going to go into nothingness. You're going to go into oblivion, and you're going to lose who you are, and you're going to cease to exist, and it's going to annihilate you, and you don't want that. What your inner guide is going to remind you of here is that that's not the case. What you are obliterating is everything that was keeping you away from who you are, from your experience of who you are as a soul. Because you were created, remember, you were authored, unique. So the only thing that's going to be obliterated is stuff you made up that has nothing to do with who you are as a soul. So you don't want to rush through this, but at the same time, you don't want to listen to the ego that's trying to convince you that this is dangerous. It's only dangerous to the ego. Path 11, the Fool card. No matter what you do or where you go, you're always guided, you're always protected, but you have everything you need. The Fool doesn't need stocks and bonds. The Fool doesn't need to hoard anything. Whatever it needs is given in the moment. The Fool exists purely by grace, the grace of the infinite. And there's absolutely nothing that it needs. And when a need is perceived, it's instantly fulfilled. And therefore, it's free. It's completely free. It has no worldly responsibilities at that time. Now, that's not to say that you're not going to stop paying your bills and all of that stuff when you work this path, but you understand that those things start to happen for you as a result of your enlightenment. The resources that you need are always going to appear for you as a result of you being on this level of consciousness. But you no longer are interested in the material world in the same way that you were before. Now, some people are going to travel this path and they're still going to be multimillionaires, but they're not attached to their multi-million dollars the way they were before. They recognize that's part of the divine design for them. That's perfect. And so it's not that you're going to sell all your belongings and go live in an ashram or something. It's just that you are no longer controlled or owned by any aspect of the mortal world. You are completely free, and you are a free agent, and you are guided and protected all the time by the infinite. As you do this, you understand this brings you all the way back to the next tree that you get to climb. And you just keep climbing the next tree up and up and up and up and up. And then until when you least expect it, spontaneously, your eyes are opened and you are freed from the wheel. In the meantime, you've got a path to climb. Then there's the next path to climb. And then there's the next path to climb. It's not that by the time you get to the top of the tree, then you are enlightened. It means that as you are waiting for yourself to be enlightened, which comes when you're ready, you've got work to do. And so each path is its own set of curricula that you are using as you walk up this serpent path. And at one point, it may be at the top, it may be at the bottom, it may be on one of these other spheres. You're going to open your eyes, spiritually speaking, and you will be enlightened. And it's going to happen in its own way and its own time. And the idea that you need to be enlightened is one of the things that ties you to this world. So you just let enlightenment take care of itself and you don't worry about that. So that's how we can use the tarot to help us through this. And as you're doing your pathworking, I encourage you to use tarot meditations as part of the work that you do on each path. And these just barely scratch the surface of some of the things that the wisdom could include. And you're going to find much, much more of your own understandings and your own wisdom by working on your own. And that's the whole idea of it. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. Until next time, blessed be.